and welcome to the A Way to Live Well podcast. I'm Anna Maria, your host. On this show, you will hear heartfelt stories of growth and transformation. I speak with people who use their experiences to build community, to cultivate connection, to create a positive impact on the world and society. I created this show as a place from which you could draw new insight, fresh energy, and inspiration to help you wherever you might be along your journey. Social connection improves physical and psychological well-being. It can be challenging to find meaningful connection, especially if you live in a big city. My guest today, Adam Wilder, has dedicated the last 15 years to helping people develop intimacy and human connection. He created Dating, an unconventional dating company that replaces talking with non-verbal connection games. He also set up Togetherness, a project dedicated to creating talks, workshops, parties and festivals with the aim of bringing people together in a more meaningful way. Adam speaks to me today about his journey and the reasons why he believes it's so important to build community well-being. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Hey Adam, thank you so much for coming and speaking with me today. It is such an honor and a privilege, and I thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks, Anna. It's lovely to be here with you.
Brilliant. For the past 15 years or so, you've been exploring different facets of humanity, things like sexuality, ritual, and human interaction. I was just wondering what first sparked your interest in these themes, and what made you decide that this was something that you needed to share?
Well, when I was really young, my mother actually started a community called Spirit Horse. And so from a young age, I went along and took part in things that they did. And they were very passionate about trying to reinvent culture, trying to reinvent ritual. And so from a young age, I would take part in some of these things. And I found some of it really incredible. I would take part in something and have some kind of bigger experience. And I felt things in my body. And in the same way that I felt actually when I was young, I also went to synagogue. And I didn't really enjoy synagogue. But the bit I did enjoy is when everyone was singing together and there was some kind of spirit. In Hebrew, it's called ruach, this spirit. And I would feel that in my body. And I really liked it. And it felt that it had, to me, more value than some of the other interactions or experiences that I would have. So I've always really enjoyed that. And then as I was growing up, I got into entertaining, and I trained with this guy called Jonathan Kay, who's a fool. And I learned about the relationship between the audience and the performer, and how the performer is playing out an aspect of the psyche almost on behalf of the whole audience, and the relationship between theatre and ritual and group experience. And I just found it all very fascinating and nourishing, and it just makes me feel kind of squishy and alive and juicy. So I follow where I feel juicy, yeah.
You literally bring hundreds of people together through your festivals and events. Do you feel that you have attained some success in what you were sort of trying to set out to do?
That's a good question. I think that I'm still constantly discovering and testing things out. It's that thing that it's not about the goal, it's about the road. And relatively, I'd say it's still quite small, really. You know, it's lovely to bring a few hundred people together for an experience or for a weekend or something. But I think there's way more to go. And I really enjoy testing ideas out. And what really feels good to me, what gives me value, is when when I get feedback that people have got value from it, that they've experienced something new, that they've expanded their sort of map of their life a bit more, where they feel permission to lean into things where before maybe they avoided them, that for me feels like a success.
What would you say, or why do you think community is so important?
We know from studies that it's our relationships that make us happy beyond all else. So I think, and I've experienced that as well in my life as well. I think, actually, just going back for a moment, one of the things which also really prompted me to work in this area is I've had times in my life of feeling terribly isolated and disconnected, and having this sense of, wanting to share something but not having anyone to share it with. And I know it can be really, really painful. And I think there's a need in us to be seen by each other, to be appreciated by each other, and to also appreciate each other. I think it's really deep in the psyche. So learning these connection skills and having permission to connect is really important to me, especially now in this age where I feel like all the cultural norms we had before have been ripped up, and we're having to relearn how to be with each other. And there's lots of opposing views now instead of one consensus way of behavior. There's lots of different views about how we should behave. And so it can be tricky to navigate that. And I'm really think it's important that we can be respectful and with each other when we're relearning this stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool. The other thing I think is really interesting is your use of play as a way to break down barriers and to help grow that intimacy or connection, even without words in some cases. Yeah. Why do you think that works so well?
Because we're all just pretending, and it's really good to be reminded of that. One of the things I loved doing in my early 20s is I had a nomadic sauna in a yurt, which went round to festivals, and we did quite a few of the more spiritual festivals, things like Buddha Field, and it was really fun because play is so important, because we can fix on this idea of like, this is how we meditate and this is how we go on the path to enlightenment, and and there's something in that fixed idea which kind of blocks off the ability to sort of progress in that direction. So the play is good because we can hold a mirror up at ourselves and laugh at ourselves and know that whilst it's really important to us and meaningful to do these things, it's also hilarious. And it gives us a sense of being able to experience new things and let go of ideas about ourselves. I'm really into the things that we do. I don't want to force an ideology down people's throats. I don't want them to have a specific set of beliefs that they have to subscribe to. I think we're all here. We're all just tumbling through space and time without really a clue of what's going on. And it's funny to look at each other and laugh and, to make eye contact with each other as we sort of drift through this eternal thing.
It's really interesting, that point. I think personally, having grown up in a society in Ireland, and I think it's the same in Britain, where most interactions sort of take place in the pub, where alcohol is used as sort of a social lubricant, and we let down our barriers that way in a very not sort of conscious way, in a very not present way. It's a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. There have been a few good nights like that, but I feel like people sometimes have these intimate experiences on a physical level through those sort of nights out, and they sort of skip past all the beautiful intimacy that can be had through, as you're talking about, play and just interactions that are more intimate on a different kind of a level.
Yeah, people can. I think one of the things is we're not in touch with what we want. We don't have the vocabulary for things, so we can use alcohol, for example. Something something I encounter a lot is people who go out and go and to a club and get really drunk and meet someone and have a one night stand, and maybe sometimes it's really great and amazing, and sometimes they feel a bit unhappy about it the next day, and sometimes what people are really looking for is intimacy and connection, but because they don't know how to ask for it, they go out and have sex with a stranger, or maybe just do things that they didn't really want to do. And so alcohol is a great way of kind of skipping that stuff, which can be uncomfortable to explore those feelings of, actually, I really want just to be held right now. We don't have a culture where you're like chatting someone up and you just tell them that, I really like you to would you mind just sitting here and putting your hand on my heart and looking in my eyes, or whatever it is, or I just really want you to rub my foot with your nose.
Yeah, as sort of as yoga teaches us, we in a way should be looking for experiences that give us more vigor, sort of vitality, and to help grow our knowledge and energy in the body. And a lot of times those experiences can leave us feeling depleted and more confused and stressed. And I think people kind of go around in that sort of endless cycle of doing the same things and not knowing how to break past those cycles. The other thing I think is really important to you is growing your knowledge constantly of new ways to interact and connect, and sort of other areas of the human condition of being human and experiencing this world. I was wondering what you're delving into at the moment.
Yeah, well, right now I'm really into this idea of personal sovereignty and sexual sovereignty. And I'm studying with a lady from the States called Dr. Betty Martin, who's created a map for human interaction called the Wheel of Consent. And what it's about is splitting human interaction into different quadrants, and really understanding when you're interacting with someone else. When I'm offering you something, am I offering it for you, or is it for me? Because quite often, like I say, we're not in touch with what we want, and we don't know how to ask for it. So we have other ways of getting it instead. So if I said to you, maybe, I would like a massage, but I don't know how to ask you for a massage, or I feel shy or ashamed or whatever. So I'll ask you, hey, would you like a massage? But really what I'm hoping is that you will want to offer me a massage back afterwards. So the Wheel of Consent is a way where we can get really clear about this stuff and really be able to communicate in a very clean way. And once you learn this stuff through touch, then it shows up in all the other areas of your life as well. So your interactions with colleagues and family and just everyday things. And I'm really into this thing. Like, I think with all the movements that are going on, all the things that are going on now, where we can support people to become more sovereign in their own being, we can really support them to be stronger in their own space in the world. And I just think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's really excellent. It's interesting, this idea of touch as well, as we people get further and further away from the idea of being able to reach out and touch someone else. There's always this kind of you're worried, as I'm a yoga teacher myself, there's these little tags you can put down on the mat that say you do not want to be touched or adjusted by your teacher. And so this leads to almost like more fear within us because we don't want to invade people's space. And so we're always questioning, should we reach out and give that hug, or, is that going to be perceived in a wrong way? And it's just such a tricky sort of space to navigate as well.
Yeah. That's interesting you experienced that as well. Yeah, I think that's happening in many places, and it comes from this care for each other because we don't want to cross other people's boundaries and we want to respect each other. And but at the same time, it can feel painful, like you say, because it can end up making us all feel more isolated and afraid. And that's why this question, like, is it for me or is it for you, is a really, really good question. And that's why I think the Wheel of Consent is such mega important work. And I want to bring it strongly into the UK over the next year or so.
Your workshops, you have a space, I believe, in London where you hold different workshops and events. Is that right? The House of Togetherness?
That's right. Yeah, we just got moved in about a month ago, and we had the place for about 6 months. So until July, you can come along and take part in talks and experiences. We have about 7 themes we work with: sex and parenting, communication, change and transformation. You can have a look at houseoftogetherness.com and see what's coming up there.
And do you host all of those events yourself? Do you have a team? You work with a community of people who are all interested in the same things as you?
Yeah, we have a community who supports, and we have a team of amazing facilitators and experts. And we also invite in guests. So we've got Tim Freak coming in April, for example, and I just want to make it a hub for meaningful connection in London, and so anyone who's interested in that should come along.
That's really cool. I would love to check it out. The other thing, you host festivals. It's in the countryside, I believe, somewhere outside of London?
Yeah, we do a summer festival, which is at the end of August at a country manor in Dorset. And that's for people who want to go on a bit more of an immersive journey, camping, or actually there's rooms you can book as well in the house. And that's over 4 days. And we have this embodiment strand to what we do as well. So there's things like Wim Hof ice baths, also you could go to the sauna, and there's like body positivity, body printing, through to belly to belly, which is a breathing technique, through to listening and communication stuff. And it's just really, really fun to come together with like-minded people for a few days and hang out and explore this stuff.
Just a couple of questions, just more, I guess, about you. What is your favorite way to connect with people?
Okay. So sometimes, we think we can go on all these different workshops and learn all these amazing techniques for connecting. I really like play, and so I'll give you an example. I used to when I was performing, I used to learn lines, and I would like throw a ball up and down in my hand because that helps the lines to go in as you're sort of learning. And sometimes I'd even do it on the tube. And I remember doing it once, and this person was looking at me, and I looked back at them, and they looked back at me, and I stopped with the ball in my hand, and I threw the ball to them, and they caught it and just looked so happy and smiled. And then they threw the ball back to me, and then other people were looking, and we just all sort of threw the ball to each other on the tube, and it just felt wonderful without even a word being spoken between us. We all had this shared experience of playfulness, and it felt really intimate and really alive and really lovely. And sometimes with people as well, I like to just, I found this really good with my parents, actually. And I'd meet up with my mum and she'd want to start telling me all this stuff. I was like, hey, Mum, let's just take a moment to just sit and be here together without talking. And a little bit of space, like that, a bit of silence, something exquisite can open up. And so I really like that as well. Just not talking and just being together.
Yeah, that's important. Those moments of space and stillness, right? So much can be said without words. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think it must be something like just. That's a really hard question to answer. What is it?
Or what's the best piece of advice you have at the moment?
So I like to procrastinate, and I find it hard to make decisions. And the best piece of advice I got from someone was like, well, just make a decision, because if you don't make a decision, then 6 months' time, you still haven't made a decision and nothing's moved. And, but if you make a decision a month later or 2 months later, you can say, well, did that work or did that not work? And if it didn't work, then you have more knowledge and you're more informed about the next decision that you make. And if it did work, then that's great. So, just make a decision, I think, is really good for procrastinators like me.
Yeah, I have a similar thing. And it's basically, I have to keep telling myself there are no really right or wrong answers. Just action is the most important thing, and just trust that, whatever comes of it it's going to be fine either way.
Yeah, great.
A book that has changed your life, or a book that you're reading at the moment?
Well, okay. For some reason, I'm thinking of 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I just love it. I love the way it goes through different generations, and I love the threads that go through, and I love the rhythm of it. And that book I just find magical. So yeah, that's one of my faves at the moment.
Cool. What is your favorite way to stay well? What do you like to do to keep up your wellness vibes?
I like to do a bit of yoga in the morning, and I generally like to run or do some, or I do a little circuit down at the gym. So if I do sort of 4 sessions of a week of running or gym, that feels good. That plus eating well, plus those are generally quite good. And I like spending time with, like, quality time with loved ones as well. That's really important to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. My next question is, what is your idea of a life lived well?
It's waking up and feeling rich and excited. Feeling the freedom in every moment to connect with others, living within my own according to my own sovereignty, according to my own heart, rather than how other people think I should live.
Do you envision sort of a more a broader sort of expanse of the work that you're doing? Because it's wonderful that it's, in the city, and I think it's really needed in the city, but also, there's so many communities and people feel isolated in communities. How do you envision sort of spreading this message further afield outside London, outside of the big city?
Well, I feel like we almost need a carnival walk, going through London that's drawing people in to do this, that will create some bigger waves. We need champions around us, great thinkers and speakers and facilitators to bring a bit more focus onto this. Yes, I do really want it to be a bigger movement. It pains me a bit. I don't think you should have to be in London on a Tuesday night with £15 in your pocket in order to come and have a connection experience. I think we should teach these skills to everyone. So here's a couple of specific things. One is we are starting to release a weekly video for people who can't come to our events. So anywhere they are in the world, they can watch the video and give you tips on how to connect with the people around you and try some of these things at home. And the second is I would like to create an online conference, the Togetherness online conference, and that's going to take place in February 2020, and people will be able to connect from that all around the world. So some of it is going to be online and some of it's going to be IRL growth as well.
Amazing. Adam, I want to thank you so much for speaking with me today and taking the time. I absolutely love what you're doing and I love your energy. And yeah, thanks again just so much for what you're doing for the world and for community. Absolutely brilliant.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. It's been lovely.
I often reach the end of these interviews and still have so many more questions, wishing that there was more time. But if you have more questions and you want to connect with Adam, you can check out his website at Adam Wilder or go on over to togetherness.com. They've set up a space in Covent Garden for the Togetherness projects where they're running workshops and get-togethers that are really, really interesting. I highly recommend if you are in London to go and check it out. If you've enjoyed the show, please feel free to follow and share. I really enjoy hearing your feedback and comments as well. So feel free to drop me an email if you have any questions, awaytolivewell@gmail.com. Or I really enjoy Instagram as well. You can always find me over there at awaytolivewell or on Facebook. I also have a website, www.awaytolivewell.com. Thank you once again for listening. Be well.